First tonight, the fight over Tasmania's share of the GST intensifies ahead of the Prime Minister's visit to the state tomorrow. Labor's preschool promise $1.7 billion for young families in a pre-election vote grab. The latest recommendations aiming to fix Hobart's housing crisis. The death toll from Indonesia's earthquake and tsunami tragedy continues to rise. Tasmania police crack down on repeat offenders in a targeted operation. And our Antarctic explorers get a lesson in firefighting.
Live from our Tasmanian headquarters, this is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening everyone and welcome to Southern Cross News. The fight over Tasmania's share of the GST is intensifying on the eve of Prime Minister Scott Morrison's visit to the state. Some economic modelling shows the changes could leave us more than $240 million worse off within 10 years. Local Liberal senators say they're committed to ensuring Tasmania doesn't lose out, but have stopped short of backing calls for that guarantee to be enshrined in law.
Scanning earthworks at the Launceston General Hospital. Health Minister Michael Ferguson was digging in on his government's push for a GST guarantee to ensure funding for vital services like health doesn't suffer.
We want to make sure that the state is always in a position where we're better off and certainly no worse off. And so that's why we're adopting that position and we'll be taking that position to our colleagues. The
federal government's own modelling suggests the deal would see an extra $112 million for Tasmania by 2026. But an alternative model revealed at a meeting of Treasurers yesterday claimed the state could be $248 million behind in a worst-case scenario. All states and territories other than WA want a guarantee inked into legislation that they won't be worse off. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg has knocked back that idea, while one Tasmanian Liberal senator is a little more diplomatic.
Look, I'm happy to look at all options. I'm happy to work with the Tasmanian government. I've spoken to both Peter Gutman and Josh Frydenberg directly about where things are at.
Labor says he needs to pick a side.
Well, no worse off scenario without legislation is no protection at all. That's why the Tasmanian Liberal senators need to stand up and fight for Tasmania.
The topic will likely dominate talks when Scott Morrison arrives in the state tomorrow, but he won't be the only visitor. For the first time ever, the Nationals will hold its state party conference in Launceston to support lone Tasmanian Senator Steve Martin. And he wants more time to consider if a GST guarantee is needed.
I think more thought needs to be put in if they were going to go down legislation-wise to make sure that each state and territory do get their fair share of the GST.
Sean McComish, Southern Cross News.
The Property Council is calling on the state government and key players to fast-track building regulations in order to fix Hobart's housing crisis. It says processes such as developmental approvals are huge hurdles to deliver housing stock, while the government maintains it is acting to fix the issue.
Tasmania remains in the midst of a housing crisis, with rental availability the worst and house price growth the relative highest in the country. But despite ongoing demand, there remains a stock under supply.
Unless we get houses built, it's a supply issue, quick and smart. We're going to be facing this for probably the next 2 or 3 years.
The Property Council releasing recommendations to ease the burden. The major issue in building more stock said to be planning approvals and inconsistency with councils implementing the statewide planning scheme.
Tasmania needs 5,000 houses today. Like where we're going to be this time next year, and if councils keep sitting on their hands, it's only going to continue to make that worse and worse.
We've seen significant increases in dwelling approvals. In fact, we're leading the nation now, so our policies are working.
Also outlined the need to support inner city residential developments and streamlining processes for utilities and new homes.
Could be up to 12 months before cables are laid by Tas Networks, before other services are put in place, and that is actually hindering supply to the market.
Housing experts agree, saying their members are consistently facing red tape.
It shouldn't take up to 6 months to 8 months to get a regular house approved. It should happen within a relative 42 days, which is what the statutory authority time limit is.
The government says it will consider the relevant recommendations.
We're always happy to take on board fresh ideas.
Louise HEDGER, Southern Cross News.
A man accused of causing the death of a 49-year-old man by negligent driving has today appeared in Hobart's Magistrates Court. Murray Edward Broughton is charged with driving over the speed limit and failure to manoeuvre his vehicle to avoid a collision, which allegedly caused the fatal crash on South Arm Road in Mornington last December. The 26-year-old's lawyer told the magistrate, Catherine Geeson, that an expert report he's waiting on could substantially assist in the resolution of the matter. The case was adjourned today and Mr Broughton has been directed to plea on the 22nd of November. The next group of Antarctic expeditioners is preparing for the challenges of life on the icy continent. This week, 30 are being trained up for an emergency they hope they won't face at their remote station, fire.
Facing flames, these expeditioners are stepping into the line of duty, honing their skills to fight fires and rescue colleagues.
The fact is we are self-reliant. We'll be down there for 7 months, for which we have to be able to respond to any type of emergency and take care of each other.
An intensive training course delivered by the Tasmania Fire Service is preparing them to be the Casey Station's own fire brigade, ready to deal with vehicle fires, hazardous materials and large building blazes.
It's certainly a condensed version of a recruit course. Obviously normal recruit courses go for a lengthy period of time, but this is 1 week where we try and give them basically everything they need to keep themselves safe on base and deal with the emergencies they have to.
Today's major challenge, donning breathing apparatus and going into a smouldering building with zero visibility.
It's a fairly stressful environment, gives you a good insight into what actually goes on in a fire. The smoke's blinding, you can't see anything, and then just the stress factor involved in it all.
When you have zero visibility and you lose one of your senses, that's probably one of the more intimidating things you can face. So, considering they're going to be on base, on station on their own, we need to really push them in that regard and make sure that as a pair or as a three that they trust each other.
Fire might be an unexpected danger in the Antarctic, but it's a high risk. Blazes can take off in the low humidity and strong winds.
So in the history of the Antarctic, we've had 5 fires for which we've either had damage or buildings destroyed. So unfortunately they do happen.
They'll continue regular training when they arrive in Antarctica later this month. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
A Tasmania Police task force targeting repeat offenders has been extended. Since December, Operation SATURATE has netted almost 700 people, charging them with 1,800 offences. Police say the number of crimes in the Southern District has reduced this year by more than 9%.
There were concerns that there were, in certain areas, indicators were showing that crime was on the increase, and we needed to put some strategies in place to ensure that the community felt safe, and we indeed reduced crime.
Car burglaries are on the rise, an issue the 12-person task force is set to focus on. Now it's been extended until the end of the year. Tasmania has welcomed its first cruise ship of the season, with the Sea Princess arriving in Burnie yesterday and Hobart this morning. Her arrival marks the start of what's set to be a bumper season, with 64 cruise liners expected to grace Hobart shores over the next few months. The Queen Elizabeth will make her inaugural visit in February, docking at Burnie and Port Arthur. A cloud remains over the future of the RSPCA Animal Clinic in Mowbray as the organisation still recovers after years of turbulent finances. The head of the charity says he wants to see more frontline inspectors preventing cases of animal cruelty.
It's work like this the RSPCA is best known for, caring for creatures left by the wayside.
That's healing nicely. Granulating up well, it'll pull together really well.
But running this centre in Mowbray has been a costly challenge for the charity, losing $300,000 a year. It will soon find out if it's won back the tender to keep operating the Launceston pound. If the RSPCA is forced to leave, it will signal its move to spend more time chasing cases of cruelty, currently held back by poor finances.
It affects the number of inspectors that we are able to employ. So if we can create a more sustainable situation, the hope is in the future we can put more on the road, have more inspectors at the coalface.
There are 5 inspectors around the state funded by $550,000 each year from the Tasmanian government. Acting CEO Andrew Byrne wants that number increased to 8.
The problem tends to be hobby farm areas, and that's often out of ignorance that the animals are not treated properly or not well looked after.
Inspectors say their job is as much about prevention through education as it is enforcement.
Sometimes it's going to someone's property and their dog is a little bit light in weight, and it's a matter of just informing them that they need to worm them every 3 months.
Sean McComish, Southern Cross News.
2 extremely rare paintings held under lock and key for decades are going to auction for the first time. The John Glover pieces are not only among the last ever painted by the renowned artist, they also hold clues to the state's colonial past.
The landscapes are foreign, but the secrets to the state's past are plentiful. Behind this painting of northern Italy is a handwritten hint to John Glover's life.
A lot of his paintings that we get are not signed. He's signed the back of one of these paintings, but he's also made mention of a new paint that he used on these paintings, which he acquired from a Charles Leake at Campbelltown.
The golden frames are also among Launceston's earliest, enclosing a sight of solace from the harsh Australian climate. But these paintings haven't seen the light of day for 30 years. They've been hidden away in the Queen Victoria Museum and Art Gallery until now, where they are being sold on behalf of a deceased estate.
Not many of his oil paintings come up. A lot of watercolour paintings come up.
They're also among Glover's last, painted in 1840, only a year before his eyesight deteriorated.
Owing to both their quality and rarity, the paintings are expected to sell for between $120,000 to $140,000.
Good original condition, original frames. We're very privileged to put them up for auction.
The paintings will be auctioned next Wednesday. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The Australian share market has closed higher, buoyed by the banks and commodity-related stocks. The ASX 200 index has risen by 30.2 points. The Australian dollar has fallen below 71 US cents for the first time since February 2016. It's now trading at 70.89 US cents.
To cricket, and the Big Bash buzz is building around the state, with tickets to the Hurricanes' upcoming Tasmanian matches going on sale today, meaning good news for punters hip pockets.
We've maintained or reduced our pricing, and that's all about giving all Tasmanians the opportunity to come to our 7 games this season.
And new signing James Faulkner is encouraging crowds to pack his home stadium on Christmas Eve when the Canes take on his old side, the Melbourne Stars.
There's going to be mixed emotions, but I'm excited to get back out here and play cricket at Blundstone Arena. It's been a while now for myself, but yeah, to be playing in front of a packed house is very exciting.
The expanded 2018 fixture sees the sides playing 5 matches at Blundstone Arena and 2 at UTAS Stadium. Hobart's Jet Burgess Stevens has topped the timesheets in the heats of the Mini Lights category at the Australian Junior Motocross Championships in Penguin. Day 5 of the event also saw Lilydale's Angus Pearce take 3rd in the 65cc final, edging out Burnie's Callum Penny in 5th. Tasmanians Jade Jennings, Cooper Ford, Holly Jeeves and Bridie Hingston also placed in their 5 respective finals. Racing continues until Saturday. With the AFL promising to throw more support behind talent pathways, 2 of Tasmania's biggest clubs have decided to get a jump start, creating their own academy programs to help some of the state's best young players realise their potential. Starting with a phone call between Glenorchy and Clarence coaches Paul Kennedy and Jeremy Webberley a few months back, today marked the club's first official academy match.
We identified there's a real gap in the talent pathway here for, especially that heading into the teenage years where we're getting a large amount of drop-off.
Not content with simply waiting for the AFL to fix it, the initiative allows players access to the club's high-performance programs and the potential to develop as elite footballers.
Only a few of these guys get opportunities in the State Academy program, but there's a lot more talent in our zones than that.
And with the program showing promising signs in its infancy stage, Kennedy and Webberley are now hoping for a steady growth, providing they can get the right support.
With all the TSL teams and a Northwest team as well, and do it in partnership with AFL Tas and use some of the extra money they've been given by the AFL as part of the review. It's exciting for us, not just their level of talent, but how engaged they've been in the academy and how much they want to improve.
Hobart's Tasmanian Hockey Centre has played host to a successful opening day of the Under-13 National Carnival, with players from around the country set to battle it out over the 7-day event. The Tasmanian girls side getting their campaign off to a winning start with a 1-0 win over New South Wales. The carnival runs through until next Wednesday. After a determined fundraising effort selling everything from biscuits to socks, 2 Tasmanian soccer teams have competed on the national stage. The squads travelled to northern New South Wales for the Oceania Cup, and despite being rank outsiders, players managed to medal in the tournament.
They have the war cry.
Go Devils!
And the medals. This under-12s team took out silver at the Oceania Cup after raising nearly $10,000 just to get there.
We sold some chocolates, we sold some socks.
Alongside an under-14s team, the Tasmanians became instant celebrities, profiled on local news and put to the test against 40 teams from around the nation.
They've got really good skills and they can be a bit more rough as well.
The under-12s, which had never played together before, conceded just 1 goal for the entire tournament, but it was the one which mattered in extra time of the grand final.
We were all friends with them and it was nice for them as well.
But they didn't leave quietly.
Keep that Tiger spirit up! Keep that Tiger spirit up! Go Tigers!
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Good evening. Temperatures ranged from -4 on Mount Wellington to our high of 18 in Launceston today. Hobart 15 degrees, Burnie 13 and Devonport 14. Now, apart from some light shower activity over the northwest, it was fine across the state. Ouse 17, Flinders Island, Low Head and Friendly Beaches 15, King Island, St Helens, Grove and Strawn 14 degrees and Lyoweeney 13. A little bit of low-level cloud over the state today, more concentrated over the west and with the trough near King Island, plenty there. More low cloud is over the Bight, a band of cloud with active and vigorous thunderstorms covers much of the southeast of the country. More thunder over large areas of Western Australia as well. Tomorrow, the high over Tasmania maintains a ridge over Central Australia. The broad trough dominates the remainder of the country. The wind's mostly light and variable, a westerly aspect to them over the southern waters, and swells to 4.5 metres in western and southern waters. The Upper Derwent Valley may have a frost tomorrow morning, so keep that in mind. But for Hobart tomorrow, partly cloudy and 17, Huonville 17 along with Campania, fine and partly cloudy. Similar conditions for Launceston until an afternoon shower moves in, possibly. 17 the top, 15 for Devonport, partly cloudy for Georgetown. Mostly sunny for Burnie, 15 the top, 15 for Strawn, a fine but partly cloudy day, okay for Wynyard 2 and 15 degrees. And for St Helens, cloudy and 15, 16 for Swansea, Port Arthur, partly cloudy and 16. On Saturday, fine apart from possible showers over the northeast in the afternoon. A fine day on Sunday with light winds and afternoon sea breezes, and fine as well on Monday until showers develop over the Central Plateau in the afternoon. Showers in Perth tomorrow, a sunny 21 in Adelaide, fine as well for Melbourne, the top there of 20. More rain though for Sydney and just 16 degrees, a storm expected in Brisbane.